My name's Chris Hoskinson. I'm Deanna's dad. Real quick, I was in the Navy for 8 years. Went to a few different places. So does anybody here of Hawaii? A place called Pearl Harbor. I was stationed there for 5 years. I was also stationed in San Diego, California. I only did 8 years because at the time it just seemed time to get out, but I had experiences while I was in the Navy that I will carry with me through the rest of my life. And some people I served with, some that have gone on, that I'll always remember. As you guys grow up, you're going to see things like that in your own lives. Cherish them while they happen. Anyway, we're going to be reading the book this morning. H is for Honor. It's by Devin Cillian. Let's get into it. A Military Family Alphabet. We'll start with A. The armed services of the United States protect our nation, its people, and its ideals. There are 5 branches that make up the United States military. The U.S. Army is the main ground force for the United States. It's the largest and oldest branch of the service. It was founded in 1775. The U.S. Air Force is the youngest branch of the service, founded in 1947. The Air Force patrols the sky and space. The U.S. Navy is the nation's primary sea force. In a world that is mostly water, the Navy patrols and navigates the vast oceans in ships of every size. Just a few months younger than the Army, the United States Marine Corps also traces its roots to 1775. The Marines are like a bridge between the Army and the Navy, able to move between water and land. As its name implies, the United States Coast Guard guards our coast. The Coast Guard secures the waterways around the borders of the United States. Give me an A for Army and an A for Air Force too. An A for all the armed services behind the red, white, and blue. They stand at attention, tall and proud, all impeccably dressed. An A for the American Armed Forces, an A for the world's very best. Now go to B. The children of military families are often referred to as military brats. Depending on your parents' branch of service, you might be an Army brat or a Navy brat, for example. It's not really known where the term brat came from. But even though it doesn't sound like a compliment, there's nothing insulting about being called a military brat. Boys and girls who grow up in military families have very unique and special childhoods. They tend to move from place to place and attend several schools. But it means having friends all over the world and seeing things that many children never get to see. Sometimes it means going long periods without seeing your mother or father while they are away on duty. That is a sacrifice, and that's why military brats can be proud of their own service to their country. No offense, but the letter B means you're a brat. Your brother and your sister, too. There's nothing wrong with that. Military kids are known as brats, but far from wild or bad. They serve their country in their own way, just like your mom or dad.
After Connor's dad got the ball down, Connor asked, "Want to learn some trick dribbles?" "Sure," said Lenny.
How I know dribble.
Connor showed Lenny how to dribble under his leg. Click, took another picture. He showed him how to dribble behind his back. Click. He even showed him how to spin the ball on his finger and roll it around his neck. Click. "Wow," said Lenny. "Dinner, Globetrotters," called Connor's dad. "Who makes your dinner?" asked Lenny. "My dad," said Connor, "except when Mom is home. Then she makes her famous macaroni and cheese." Mac and cheese, yeah. Lenny scraped the last bit of sloppy joes off his plate. "Who clears the dishes?" he asked. Connor's Saluted kitchen patrol at your service. Click. I have KP duty at home too, said Lenny. Remember what I said when your mom or your daddy's gone away in the military that you all have to help out. They have to do help with the dishes, you have to help with the laundry, you have to help with everything.
He lifts her up to his shoulders. Daddy, my brave daddy. Her daddy laughs. No, no, no. It's you, my little Natalie. You are my brave, brave girl. The end.
Do you guys have any questions you'd like to ask Mr. Ohan? Okay, but what I'm going to ask you to do though, before you ask questions, I want you to take about a 10-second pause and make sure it's a question, right? Is it a question? Is it something he can answer? Not a story. No stories. No stories. I know, you like to tell me about your grandpa's cousin's brother who was in the military, right? So, think about a question, a really good question. We'll take 10 questions. All right, Mr. Ohan, you're going to be the bad guy that has to pick on the kids.
All right, you had your hand up first.
What do you do in the army?
I work on vehicles. I work on like Humvees and the big trucks with wheels. I do that type of stuff.
Good question.
You had your hand up next.
Me?
Mhm.
Are you in training or are you actually in like the real like army?
Yep, I do the real Army thing every day. I did training about 22 years ago.
For 1 year you did it. You did training. And then you go on.
And go ahead.
How many places have you been in the army?
I've been to Fort Jackson, South Carolina, Fort Hood, Texas.
Afghanistan too. You were doing like
I've been to Hanau, Germany. I've been to Bosnia, Hungary, Croatia. Then I was at Fort Carson, Colorado. And then I was in Arizona. And then I was in California, in Napa and Monterey. And then I was in Pennsylvania, and then back to Texas at Fort Bliss, in El Paso, and then
New York.
Well, and then it was Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went to New York, and now we're here.
Yay.
Wow.
So lots of places.
That's a lot of places.
Mhm.
18.
Have you like have you ever been like in the emergency where you had to get deployed or something?
Well, it wasn't really an emergency. It was just our unit doing going to Afghanistan. It was our rotation to go, and we went in, was it 2015?
14.
14? Yeah, 2014. Go ahead.
How many years have you been in the army?
This December will be 23 years. And I'm going to probably do 3 more, and then it'll be all done.
Good.
Go ahead.
That's good. Me?
Yep.
What vehicles do you work on and why do you work on them?
Well, they're Humvees and like 5 tons we call them, LMTVs. These are all like acronyms. But
Those
like
big
all the
trucks, sometimes when you're driving down the road, do you ever see like a big mass of like army vehicles that go by, those really big ones?
Yes.
Those are the ones he's talking
They
about.
hold like men in the back of them,
Yep.
and they're really, really armored, but they're painted with like I think they're painted patterns.
He could probably tell you
Yeah.
exactly all about it.
Yeah, they're just like that.
So he works on them just like if there's something wrong with it, Dalton.
On what year did World War II start? Anybody?
1960.
You got that right.
19, what did he say?
Something.
19.
Was it 41?
41 was when the Japanese bombed us at Pearl Harbor, but World War II started in the fall of 1939 when Hitler and the Nazis invaded Poland. And a few days later, the Russians invaded Poland from the east. They squished them between them. And that began World War II. And because of treaties between countries, where we're buddies, if anybody punches her, I'm going to help her punch them back. So England and some other countries had a treaty with Poland that if anybody punched Poland, they were going to punch them back. So sure enough, as soon as the Germans invaded Poland, the British and some other countries declared war on Germany. And that's what began World War II.
Now, the United States was not pulled into the war until the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 41, December 7th, 1941. That's when we were pulled into the war, and they, the Japanese are the ones that bombed Pearl Harbor because they wanted us involved in World War II.
And the Japanese were buddies with the Germans. So since the Japanese bombed us and we declared war on Japan, that meant also that we were declaring war on Germany.
Remember how Mrs. Fisher talks about how I used to live in Germany? Remember? Okay, so that's what Mr. Ray and I were talking about earlier when we were talking about going to Bosnia and the 12th Aviation Brigade. We were involved, my husband, not me, but I lived there with him, involved with the same unit, but in different years. Well, that's why we went to Germany. That's why my husband was sent to Germany, was to help. Well, by that time it was really because it was an easy place to deploy to other locations. But that's why we lived there.
Now today we're friends with the Germans.
Yes.